Well, welcome. My name is James Fang. I'm the current president of the Heart Failure Society of America. And this series of talks are with our board. I call them conversations with the board. Well, actually, I call them getting to know the board conversations with the president. And today we have Michelle Kittleson, professor of medicine at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. Michelle, thank you so much for spending a couple of minutes with me.
Oh, so happy to be here. Thank you.
So can you describe yourself to listeners from a professional point of view?
Sure. So I am a heart failure transplant cardiologist. It's at Cedars-Sinai in sunny Los Angeles, California. My absolute passion more than anything else is taking care of patients, helping them feel better, live longer. And my second most important priority is molding young minds to my will, also known as medical education.
Some people say call that mentoring, right?
That too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you are very accomplished, and I've known you for years, and you've had a lot of roles in academic medicine. What drew you to the discipline of heart failure, and what makes you so darn passionate about this chosen discipline of ours?
So, speaking of mentors, I think every step of my career was inspired by an incredible mentor. Becoming a doctor, first of all, I'm the fifth generation of doctors in my family, and I'm an only child. So, I was basically fated to go to medical school from the time I was born. And being a good, second generation Indian immigrant daughter, I did exactly what my parents told me. But from the first day of medical school, I totally loved it. So, it was an amazing decision. But I chose internal medicine because I had the most amazing mentor in medical school. And it was a good practical use of everything I'd learned. And he told me the most important thing. He said, don't memorize, reason things out. If you understand pathophysiology, you'll understand etiology, you'll understand differential diagnosis. And that was a light bulb in my head. Then cardiology, again, amazing mentors during my residency, one of whom was Dr. Jim Fang, who then taught me the beauty of cardiology, which is number one. You need the history and physical. You can't diagnose unstable angina without a history. You can't diagnose decompensated heart failure without a physical. I loved that. The second thing I loved was the enormous base of clinical trial evidence. If I told a patient to do something, I was confident it was actually the right thing to do. And then heart failure, again, was part of that continuum of extraordinary mentors during my fellowship, where it was a field where you could have so many different roles. You could take care of the acute crashing and burning shock in the ICU. You could take care of that chronic, wonderful long term relationship in the clinic. You could do procedures like biopsies. You could do imaging. Every single part of medicine was still part of your armamentarium. And that's why I ended up as a heart failure transplant cardiologist.
Well, it's obvious it's a field that still excites you quite a bit. That's
Amazing. Yes.
fantastic. What excites you most these days about heart failure? I mean, you've been in the game a long time and you've seen a lot of change. You remember the original HeartMate XVE,
Yes. Yes. Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
barbaric.
That's what I love. I love getting older. It is so exciting. I love the wisdom, the experience, the perspective. So, I remember there was this vast desert in heart failure, right? AHEF came out in 2004, isodiol hydrolase in severely symptomatic patients, self-described as Black with HFrEF mortality reduction. And then there was nothing and nothing and nothing until 2014 when Paradigm HF and ARNIs, oh my gosh, knocked ACE inhibitors off their thrones. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting again. And I'm like, oh, but it'll probably be another 10 years before we have anything else that's exciting. But then lo and behold, the SGLT2 inhibitors, oh my gosh, now the GLP-1 receptor agonist. It is, I remember in medical school, I'm like, don't give me a new fact to learn. I have enough. But when you've been in the field for a while, you love the new facts. It is so exciting to be always learning and changing. So that's heart failure. And then you think about mechanical circulatory support, Oh, sorry, there's a ambulance going down Wilshire Boulevard. So, which is, again,
It
here we
happens.
are in the height of everything. So we think about mechanical circulatory support. I remember the days, Jim, and I'm sure you do too, when you'd see the paracorporeal biventricular assist devices and you'd round on the patients with a flashlight to look for clots in their little LVAD, BIVAD chambers that were sitting outside their bodies and do the flash test to make sure. I mean, crazy times. Right now we have these LVADs and now they have incredible outcomes and maybe someday they'll be fully implantable. And when it comes to transplant, I always thought in the United States, we'll never do more than 2,500 transplants a year. How can we? We're limited by donor supply. In the last few years, over 4,000 transplants because donation after circulatory death. So I feel like there's always something wonderful and new coming around the corner to help us treat our patients better.
It's remarkable, right? Positive change is always there, is always there. Well, can I ask you, what has the society meant to you in your career? As you know, you're a wonderful member of our board, which I think we all love. But what is it about the society that's so compelling to you?
I love the Heart Failure Society of America because it is so accessible. I'm the kind of person that if you put me in a room with 100 people, I'll be like, turn around and leave because you know what? It's just too overwhelming. And what I love about the society is that there's so many avenues to find your place. So I started out over a decade ago. It was a mentor of mine who said, I can't believe you're not a member of the HFSA. And I want to invite you to give a talk at the annual meeting, but I can't because you're not a member. I'm like, oh no. Next day, of course, I'm a member. And then I went to the first meeting. I'm like, this is a great meeting, as opposed to going through the program and like crossing off 60% of the talks that I'm really not interested in. I have dueling commitments. I wanted to split myself in half to go to every single talk. So I love that about it. I love the fact that it's a such a small community that on a national or even international level, you can network with colleagues that helps you on so many levels. It helps you take care of patients because you can bounce things off centers that have more expertise in those weird things like giant cell myocarditis or fibromuscular dysplasia or highly sensitized post-transplant. You have a community of people to go to with questions. Number two, from an educational perspective, the offerings, it's a positive feedback. I love participating, I love learning. And then third, for research collaboration, I can't think of how many wonderful opportunities have come just from meeting people and knowing people. So I love the fact that it is big enough that it expands, encompasses so many levels of expertise, yet small enough that you can feel that you can find your place and it's not overwhelming. And I love how inclusive it is and reflecting the multidisciplinary sphere that is heart failure, because it takes a village to take care of a heart failure patient.
Yeah, everything you just said just resonates so much with me, and something that I've been proud of being part of for so many years. Well, let's get to the fun part. What is Michelle Kittleson doing when she's not being a heart failure expert? What do you like to do? What are the
Well,
things that turn you on and turn you off?
so funny you should ask. I do have some other hobbies. My other hobbies or special talents include being a wild animal wrangler and hostage negotiator, or at least that's how I like to say having three children at home feels like when I'm not at work. So I love having young minds to mold to my will. I like to joke with my fellows. I have three advanced heart failure transplant fellows at the hospital, and I have three kids at home. And sometimes some listen to me better than others. So clearly, my life is consumed with the children. Other things I love cooking. In fact, I have a spreadsheet for Thanksgiving dinner. It is perfect in every way. It's been honed over decades. As you might imagine, there's the recipes that you can then sort by ingredient, then sort by aisle of the grocery store, and then there's time by 30-minute increments from 5 days ahead of time to the meal itself. And it's available for anyone who has any questions on how to do a great Thanksgiving.
That's awesome. And don't forget, you like to write. I believe you've written a
Yes.
book.
Yes, yeah, I do. It's funny because being the fifth generation of doctors in my family and an only child and the daughter of Indian immigrants, of course, I was fated to be a physician. I told my parents growing up I wanted to be a writer, and they said, "How are you going to pay your mortgage?" So, but I rebelled decades later, and I did. I wrote a book called Mastering the Art of Patient Care, where I share the wisdom of my mentors and the mistakes I have made, because you shouldn't have to make them all yourself. And of course, the wisdom that Dr. Jim Fang taught me is in there as well. And it really is, it's a great blessing to the lesson to learn here is that you can always reinvent yourself. You will graduate fellowship thinking there is one path and one path alone, but you don't realize, and you realize as you go, how many different ways there are to have a fulfilling career in medicine and beyond.
Well, Michelle, this has been a fantastic few minutes. Thank you so much. I did tell you that I would end with a question. And what is your favorite movie? And, it's okay to tell the audience that have a inside line on some of this.
Yeah. Well, yes, I suppose I should say, since I've been happily married for 22 years to a screenwriter and a producer, that my favorite movie is River's End, California's latest water wars, which is my husband's documentary on the real life story of the water wars that were the basis of the movie Chinatown. So check it out, available for streaming on a platform near you.
Awesome plug. Awesome plug. Well, Michelle, this has been wonderful. It is hard not to talk to you and just not smile throughout the whole thing. So thank
Amazing.
you again for spending the time with us, and looking forward to seeing you soon. If nothing else at the board meeting, but for sure at the ASM meeting in September. Thanks
Can't
again.
wait. Thanks so much, Jim. Bye.